The place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC, and this is your UFC 283 Aftermath show. We've got lots to recap, we've got lots to go through and talk about. We're going to be talking about the possibility of Jamahal Hill taking on Alex Pereira for the light heavyweight title. Could it happen? Is it going to happen this year? We'll talk about that, so do stay tuned for that. We're going to be talking about Brandon Moreno potentially fighting Alejandro Pantoja. We're going to talk about who's going to win in that fight for the third time. First one was an exhibition. We're also going to be talking about Gilbert Burns. What's next for him? He's laid out a few things that he would like to do next. There's a list of them. One of them was coaching the Ultimate Fighter alongside Colby Covington. So we're going to be talking about that and what could that look like? And then lastly, we're going to be talking about Jailton Almeida being the Brazilian Hamzat, because I think he's got all the tools to be the Brazilian Hamzat, and we're going to be talking about the rankings as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that and get in the chat bar with your opinions. So don't go anywhere. Okay, so let's get into it first. Before I get the main card stuff, I probably should make some honourable mentions in the prelims, of course. It was weird to see Gregory Rodriguez get knocked out. Wasn't expecting that. Pretty sure a lot of people picked Rodriguez. A lot of people had high hopes for him in the middleweight division, but he's been set back a little bit. Well, shout out to Nicholas Dolby, of course, as well. He defeated Wally Alves by a split decision, close one there. And of course, Jailton Almeida, man, he just looks phenomenal in the heavyweight division, keeps on climbing, and he TKO'd Abdurahimov in round number 2. But we're going to recap some of the events from the main card. That's what we tuned in to watch during the watch along. So first up, of course, we had Johnny Walker defeating Paul Craig via TKO round 1. I must admit, I knew this was coming. I did. I had a funny feeling because, he's just a bigger guy as Johnny Walker. And I felt coming into this fight, a lot of people were 50-50 on whether it was going to be Walker, whether it was going to be Paul Craig. But Johnny Walker got in Paul Craig's face from the off and he put him under pressure. And the question really, after seeing that performance is, does Paul Craig struggle when fighting off of his back foot? And Walker exploited that option. He really did. And yeah, Paul Craig's striking isn't the best. He's got 3 knockouts on his resume. Johnny Walker moves to 2-0 now. 2 wins on the bounce. He's looking good. He's looking fresh. It's not the Johnny Walker that we've seen in the past. The added pressure was good, but he stayed calculated throughout the fight, and I think that's going to be key. We will talk about what's next for him then. Do tune in the chats, and don't forget to hit that like button, of course, as well, and subscribe if you're new. We'll talk about what's next for Johnny Walker. I've got 2 options. I think you guys might like them. Fingers crossed that you do. One of them, Volkan Oezdemir. He's won 2 of his last 5. So not the best records of recent. But if we take a look in the rankings, though, as you can see there, he's in at number 8. Sitting pretty. I'm just going to get it up on my screen here as well. Paul Craig dropping down to number 11. Oezdemir is 1 spot below him. Normally, the way the rankings work is if you move up a spot, you then got to defend it. It's not always the case, but apparently that's the rules. That's what we've been told by our boy Chris Curtis. So it would make sense to go against Volkan Oezdemir because Walker has already fought the likes of Ryan Spann. Yes, Ryan Spann is fighting Nikita Krylov, who's 1 step ahead of Johnny Walker, and Johnny Walker has also lost to Nikita Krylov as well. So he's not going to fight either of those guys. My other option, Anthony Smith, which I think would be a good fight. It would be a good test for Walker. However, I don't think Smith will go from being the backup fighter in the title fight to fighting someone below him. I don't know how the UFC would be able to swindle their way into that one. I think he's He's got all the potential, I think. The hype train might come back for Johnny Walker. It might. But I don't want to get too excited just yet. You know, because when he was killing it and when he first entered the division, we were talking about potential fights with John Jones, how that would look. But he's a much smarter, more calmer fighter now, is Johnny Walker. But yeah, I think Anthony Smith would be a good stepping stone for him. We've got, for some reason, Glover's still in the rankings, so we're yet to find out who's going to potentially move up. So I would imagine that Anthony Smith would go into 5th. So I think Johnny Walker, from all of a sudden being at the bottom outside of top 10, would be knocking at the door of top 5. I think it could very well happen. I can't see there being any rematches. We've also got Alexander Rakic, who's waiting in the wings as well. I think he might be fully fit soon. He's obviously coming off of that leg break against Jan Blachowicz. So he's going to want to get ready. Can't see him fighting anyone else. I mean, he could get Ankalaev, to be fair, because I struggle to see the UFC rebooking Ankalaev versus Blachowicz after that draw. I do, especially if it was a main event. It's not going to main event a fight night or anything like that. I can't see it. Surely not. Surely they've got to put it as a co-main potentially. If you put it on a co-main on a pay-per-view card, it's probably not going to be great, is it? It'd be interesting. 3 rounds, of course. You know. Then how do you go from a very close 5-round fight to a 3-round fight? You know, I guess you got to pump the brakes a little bit more, of course, and draw out a bit more of an exciting fight, maybe. But yeah, if that fight's not going to get made, I would like to see Rakic versus Ankalaev. But you know, I think Johnny Walker versus Jan would be a little bit steep. They could do Jan versus Anthony Smith. Is Jan and Anthony Smith fought before? No, they haven't. So, and yeah, there you go. There you have it. I think those 2 matchups would be quite wise. Anthony Smith versus Jan Blachowicz, Ankalaev versus Rakic, and then you do Johnny Walker versus Volkan Oezdemir. All right, so that is what it will look like, I think, personally, in my opinion. Get your opinions in the comments, in the chats, whenever you're tuning into this. Yes, Angus, Anton to... this is really small for me. Bear with. Ankon Turkalj, potentially. Probably takes Glover's spot. Come on, man. Let's be real. Let's be real there. I haven't seen that guy fight yet. I must admit, much apologies. But all right, good take nonetheless. But yeah, that's my take for Johnny Walker. As for Paul Craig, though, I've got 1 fight for him, and two. One that we mentioned during the watch along, which was of course Dominic Reyes, because I think that kind of makes sense in a lot of ways. Dominic Reyes has been a bit of a tough run at the moment. He's been knocked out by heavy hitters as of recent. He's on a terrible run. Slips down at number 12, of course, 1 spot below Paul Craig. That's 4-fight losing streak, you know? I think the UFC will obviously still keep him around. I think he's got 1 more chance left, and then he's going elsewhere. But it makes sense because Craig only has 3 TKO wins in his 16 fights. So it's a perfect matchup for Dominic Reyes, and it's a perfect fight for Paul Craig. Paul Craig, I think, is going to be... I kind of want to say favour Reyes in that, actually. In a way, because I think Reyes is going to be a lot bigger physically than Paul Craig. Paul Craig, I think, has struggled to really pull off his grappling as of recent. Dominic Reyes could push the pace in the fight, but at the same time, he's been getting knocked out, so he might be a little bit timid. I wouldn't mind seeing that open a pay-per-view card at some point. Fingers crossed that could happen. I think that's the only option to make, or the most logistical one. Can't believe JK doesn't know Anton Turkalj, pronounced Turkal-E. Okay, Turkal-E. Isn't the Pleasure Man. That is the Pleasure Man. See, I only know him as the Pleasure Man. Because you call him as the Pleasure Man. I do apologise. I should have known it was, of course, the Pleasure Man. My bad, Angus. My bad. I do apologise. Hope you're doing well, of course. Hope your rugby training was good the other night. The other option I've got for Paul Craig would be the winner of Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menafield, because they're booked to fight. I did say this in the watch along as well, actually, as a potential option. They're booked for the next pay-per-view, which is happening in 2 weeks' time. So make sure you got the notifications bell ring on our channel to know when that video is going to come out. So then you can obviously set the reminder and join us for a watch along, which is going to be fantastic, man. We're going to pull out all the stops for that one. It's a big card. Yeah, I think Jimmy Crew has obviously got a bit of a grappling background himself, so that ties in very nicely with Paul Craig. It'd be very interesting to see who would have the upper hand on the ground. Both guys are probably similar in size, I would say. Menafield, he's very heavy. His striking, I don't think is that great either. I think he's more of a wrestler as Menafield. If I've seen him a handful of times. Not really the biggest admirer of him, but he's on a 2-fight win streak, of course. Back-to-back knockouts. The last one was against Misha Serkinov, who was on a bit of a tough run himself. So that would make sense. My bad. Oh, clicked back. My bad. I've clicked the mouse. But thanks for the chat, Angus. Lovely stuff. Oh, I'll just get that off the screen. We'll head on back. There we go. My apologies. Yeah, back to what I was saying. So, yeah, I think if either of those guys win, you're sitting in just below Paul Craig there, and that matchup could tie in nicely and potentially get made May time, June, depending on, safety and the health of fighters, of course, as well. Angus says, in my matchmaking article, I think I'd put Rakic versus Walker. I feel like their time frames might work out well. Yeah, you could be right, Angus. Yeah, I do like that option as well. Like I said, I think it would be a massive jump for Johnny Walker. I'm not sure if the UFC were ready to do that. Personally, I think Rakic versus Blachowicz. No, not Blachowicz, sorry. Versus Ankalaev would make a bit more sense, in my opinion. Welcome back. Yes, James MMA, my man, my dude. James MMA's back in. He says, hi, guys. Craig versus Reyes as well. See, he's siding with Craig versus Reyes. How do you think that would go, James? Because, yeah, I'm finding it tough. I would side with Reyes. I think he's desperate for a win, of course. I mean, so is Paul Craig, but, I'd say Dominic Reyes more so. But, yeah, lovely stuff. Interested to get your thoughts on that fight. Thanks for your comment, as always. I think we should probably move swiftly on to the next fight that was on the main card. Third fight on the night. We're heading on back. Bosh. Second fight even. Sorry. I'm ahead of myself. Getting too excited, was, of course, Jéssica Andrade picking up the decision win against Lauren Murphy. Great performance from her all around. She moves to 3-fight win streak now, 29-9 overall. Her footwork, her power, and ability to attack the body first in her exchanges was just an absolute joy to watch. Some say that the fight should have been stopped. Murphy has been battling people online. People have been saying that her corner really should have stopped the fight, and it was an absolute beatdown from Jéssica Andrade. And she's kind of saying, look, guys, I think my heart, I showed heart in that fight. I was never out. I was defending myself. She was moving away quite well, I felt, in the exchanges. The ref gave her a lot of time. She did take a lot of shots, but, she was kind of covering up a little bit as well. And I guess the argument coming out of this pay-per-view was, which one should have been stopped? Should it have been the Andrade versus Lauren Murphy fight, or should there have been the Jamahal Hill versus Glover fight? Which one was closest? You'd probably say that the closest was the Jamahal Hill Glover fight. Personally, I purely would put age in as a factor in this. Yes, Teixeira is an absolute zombie, but because he's over 40 years old, you got to think of, the future. You got to think about when CTE hits in and things like that. And it's Jamahal Hill was just an absolute sniper, and I don't know. I don't know what I'd give, really. I don't know which one I would rather see stop. I think it was fine by both referees, personally. Neither person dropped fully, and neither fully followed up to put their opponent away, in my opinion. So, yeah, bit of a tricky one, of course. I wasn't really surprised about the outcome, really. He was going to be Andrade, of course. Let's be honest. We all picked Andrade. But, however, I wasn't expecting a knockout. I really could have seen a knockout. So you got to give props to, I think, Lauren Murphy for really battling out. Tough loss, of course, against a really big competitor, a physically powerful competitor. It's going to be interesting to talk about what's next for Lauren Murphy. But first, we're going to talk about what's next for Weili Zhang. Because, in my opinion, I think for Zhang, she's going to be... Weili Zhang, there you go, I gave it away already. It's because this thing's like scrolling like mad for some reason. I don't know why. My notes. So, for Jéssica Andrade, she did mention that she wanted Weili Zhang. Weili Zhang beat her back in 2019, so, a couple of years ago now. It's really her only other competition, really, in my opinion, because other than that, you're then looking at, I guess we should go into the rankings anyway, because we're talking about it. That's for flyweight. I'll look at the strawweight rankings, because she's called out Weili here, so we've got to talk about it. The only other option for Weili would be Amanda Lemos, but I think that fight is a bit of a tough sell. I think Lemos really needed to beat Andrade, really, because then you could sell that fight. And I think, it would be an interesting one for the fans. If you book that fight now, it's sort of like, would rather see the Andrade rematch, really, because Andrade has just been slaying people. There's several options here. But Andrade wants Weili. I think that's fair assumption. She's been back and forth in both divisions. Angus is he done a good article on this on our website, which you can check out at www.atfmma.com. So make sure you check it out after this video. He kind of says he's got other options in mind. And, you could very much say if Jéssica Andrade is going to stick in the women's flyweight division, who have you got ahead of her? You've got Talia Santos and Manon Fiorot. Of course, Talia Santos is currently booked against Erin Blanchfield. But if Erin Blanchfield was to pull out of that fight for whatever reason, Jéssica Andrade, I reckon, will be fit and healthy to potentially step in there, because you might as well. I think, stay active. You fought Shevchenko not too long ago. You're probably not gonna get that fight back anytime soon. You're most likely gonna get Weili Zhang versus Andrade than you are gonna get Andrade versus Shevchenko. But the Manon Fiorot one I think would be very, very interesting. It'd be intriguing to see if Andrade can get past those long-range weapons of Fiorot, because she was able to do it against Chookagian, and Chookagian's really good at working behind her jab and keeping her opponents at bay, but she stopped Chookagian with that body shot that was absolutely nasty against the cage, and the follow-up was phenomenal as well. Against Santos, I think Santos is tough as well, man. I actually couldn't pick that fight between the two. I like Talia Santos. I think she's got a great overall MMA package. She's great on the ground, and she's got good striking as well. So I think that would be really intriguing. And that's sort of one you would probably take to Brazil. Andrade has got a headliner fight night in Brazil, or fight on a fight night in Brazil. I think it's going to happen. She I think called for the Weili fight in Brazil because it would make sense. I think those two were paired up in China. So yeah, I like those options. Let's tune back in with the chat. We're still the guys are talking about the light heavyweight bout still. Sai says it's not a bad shout, but I want to see Craig win the next one, not lose. Yeah, I know, but I do think Reyes is a good one. Personally, James reckons it would be Reyes knockout. Woo! Could see it. Personally, want Reyes versus Gustin, says Angus. That's an interesting curveball to throw in there. Gus didn't really retire, did he? It was a tough. He was a tough bout last time out, I must admit. It wasn't a great matchup for Gus. But yeah, I think Reyes would be an intriguing one. So I says, who else thought Murphy looked like the Red Skull after this bout? Yeah, man. Mate, that forehead was pretty bulbous. Obviously not as bulbous as Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but what Lauren Murphy was kind of saying on Twitter, and we'll go on to Lauren Murphy now, is she was saying that, how come you guys weren't saying that Joanna Jędrzejczyk should have been stopped? Because her forehead was absolute massive. Which is a fair point. You got to give it to her. Why was she not stopped? So I can see where she's coming from here. But at the same time, Joanna was properly defending herself. She wasn't taking as much damage as Lauren Murphy was. Really, let's be honest. But as for Lauren Murphy, then, I've got some good options here. I've got one of two, depending on the outcome. I've got the winner of Araujo versus Ribas for this one, personally. because you got Arujo in at 7, you got Ribas in at number 15, so it's going to be a big jump for Ribas if she wins. I kind of like that fight. Both girls are coming off of losses. Arujo is fast. She's so quick, man. Ribas is excellent on the ground. Neither girl is an elite striker. And that's kind of Murphy's kryptonite as of recent. It's just girls who can just bang, you know? Like Shevchenko, like Jessica Andrade. So I think that fight would be an intriguing one for her. Now, she hasn't fought either, I don't think. Jerome Caldwell, Andre Lee, yeah. Other than that, because I think what I said during the watch long was, and the winner of Andrea, I think we said before, Andrea Lee, the winner of Andrea Lee against Macy Barber. But if Macy Barber wins, yeah, I could probably see that matchup as a potential one. But the reason why we're not sure of the outcome of that one, I think, camera's gone off. Oh my God. Strange. Gosh. Oof. All right, bear with us. We're just connecting this camera. I'm just going to speak anyways. Yeah, so I think that I think Arujo, I fancy Ribas in that one. I think Ribas is entertaining. I personally do. There we go, and we're back. Yeah, I just think that she's entertaining, and I really want to see her thrive in the flyweight division. It's kind of weird that she's gone from fighting the number 1 girl at the time, which was Chukasian, now to number 6, and she's ranked at 15. It's very weird. But anyhow, either how. But yeah, that's pretty much my only options for Andrea, for Lauren Murphy even. Moving on then, going back now to the third fight of the night, which is of course Gilbert Burns. Picking up the submission win against Neil Magny, and arm choke. Look, as expected, really. He just took the fight because he wanted to stay active, and rightly so. And he clearly saw that it was a winnable fight for him. Was a bit of a jump in rankings for Neil Magny, but again, Burns just wanted to stay active. He moves to 21-5 now. I think he's just chipping away, really, because he's got to. He's got to kind of chip away at anyone he can and rack up more wins to potentially get another fight at welterweight. Obviously, the upcoming bout between Usman and Edwards, it all hangs on the balance there with that one. Because if Leon wins again, Burns has got a solid case of being the next contender, and things get juicy in this welterweight division because it's stacked at the top 5. A lot of competitors that Leon Edwards has not fought yet. So we should probably have a look then at that rankings then. No movements, of course, as expected. We've got Bilal Muhammad above Gilbert Burns. He reckons that Burns reckons that he should be above Bilal Muhammad because Bilal Muhammad apparently turned down a fight against him. And Bilal was moved above him for some reason. I don't know why the UFC decided to do that, but anyhow, got Muhammad, Khamzat waiting in the wings, Colby. So are we going to get into a little bit more on Gilbert Burns later on and the whole kind of scenario? But I guess what I should kind of, the options that we'll talk about, let's get your opinions on them then. For Colby Covington, do you think it should be Colby Covington, or do you think he should fight Bilal Muhammad next? Which one should it be? Because it doesn't look like Chimaev Covington is happening. It was rumoured at one point, right? Why hasn't the fight not been made? Khamzat looks like he's in training now. I think he's back at Tiger Muay Thai. Colby Covington's disappeared off the grid. So, look, I honestly don't know. Sorry, I missed some chats. Angus says, Faro asked for a challenger before she goes to Shevchenko. Why not Andrade? Yeah, okay. I thought perhaps Faro was injured, to be honest, because Shevchenko makes a lot of sense for next, but Grafso's got the slot. For Lauren Murphy, I suggested the winner of Lee vs. Barber in my article. That's right, indeed. Angus's article, so do make sure you check that out later on. It's not in the description at the moment, but it will be in due course. But yeah, back onto the welterweight scene. So what would we rather see, guys? Colby Covington versus Burns, or would we rather see Bilal Muhammad versus Burns? We'll get into my opinions on it a little bit later on. I guess the wrestling factor is always there for both guys, really. And it's going to be interesting because I guess for both of those fights, you'd expect them to be on the feet, right? So who's got better striking? Has Gilbert Burns got better striking than Bilal Muhammad? I think he has. Has he got better striking than Colby Covington? Yes, he has. But one thing that Colby's got over Burns is cardio. So that's going to be so intriguing, man. Those options are so intriguing. Angus says, from what I heard, Covington is claiming Masvidal gave him brain damage in court and hence taking the fight would lose his case. Oh, damn, of course. Yes, Angus, with the juicy stuff. That's a good point. That's a very, very good point. So we're not going to see either of them. But then this court case could take for ages. That's ridiculous. I mean, for Colby to come on, man. You're a professional fighter. One shot in a nightclub. You can't claim brain damage. That's ridiculous. That is absolute ridiculous. This is not a winnable case. I don't think it's a winnable case. Hopefully that gets wrapped up soon so we can conclude the top part of the division, to be honest. Sadiq, my man! Sadiq! He's in the house! Best silent Riz, give me 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go. I need a timer. Who's timing? That's all I got. I was literally taking. I was watching your video. I was watching your Riz, Sadiq. So I was trying to get some tips off of you. Let us know and rate it out of 10 for us, because I clearly need to work on my Riz game. I haven't got TikTok to actually work it, I'm afraid. Or check out everyone else's Riz. But thanks, Super Sadiq. See, all right, rate it out of 10. But Sadiq, who do you reckon's next for Gilbert Burns? Who would you rather see? Would you rather see Colby or would you rather see Bilal Muhammad? I think looking at the court case that Angus said, I would actually rather see Bilal. I think it would most likely be Bilal. I think it was talked about less, but it's whether or not Bilal is going to take that fight, really, isn't it? Again, the striking is the most intriguing part about that fight. On the ground, I don't think Bilal's going to want to touch it. Really, I don't. And I'd be interested to get his, who he would train with in preparation for Gilbert Burns. Of course, he's training with the likes of Makhachev and all those guys. 6 out of 10. Sadiq's giving me it. Oh man. Okay, I'll do better. I'll try and creep it up to 7 next time. Angus says, "Stop doing whatever Sadiq tells you to do." Mate, it's Super Sadiq, mate. I called him. I feel like because I called him a pussy, I got to, I could do whatever he wants. It's fine. Bilal for sure. So Super Sadiq, yeah. I think it makes sense. I would really want to see Chimaev versus Colby, but I feel like that's not going to happen, is it? I wonder who Chimaev's going to get because he looks like he's training at the moment. Sadiq says they both asking for Colby where it makes more sense for them to fight each other. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're going to get into the little bit of the juicy stuff later on, so do stay tuned for that, because in the post-fight press conference, Burns did say that he wouldn't mind coaching the Ultimate Fighter with Colby Covington, and he also said he wouldn't mind being a backup for the UFC 286 card. So we're going to get into that juicy stuff a little bit later on. But I guess we should move swiftly on to what's next for Neil Magny. Now, Neil Magny, unfortunately, he's 3-3 in his last 6. He is a bit of a gatekeeper in that division. He's sitting in at number 13 now. So, what's next for him? I've got one potential option. I mentioned it in the watch along. I like the winner of Randy Brown versus Jack Della Maddalena. Hit me with it, mate. Hit me with the fire emojis in the chat. Because, look, I'm a bit of a fan of Jack Della Maddalena, so of course I'm going to want him to beat Randy Brown. But Randy Brown versus Neil Magny, guys, come on. That fight is pretty good. Both guys are long and rangy as hell. I think Magny uses his range a bit better than Randy Brown, personally. But Randy Brown is a bigger guy, man. He's shredded and he's thick. So, it's a tough fight for Jack Della Maddalena. I honestly can't pick a winner in that fight. I'm hoping Jack wins that fight, of course. Angus says, at this point, do we just give Chimaev the winner of Leon/Usman and Bird? Yeah, you're probably right, Angus. I think so. Do you know what? There's no way that they're going to put Hamzat in as a backup. Because why has that fight not got a backup? And yeah, of course, Burns has put himself into the mix for that, but I feel like there needs to be a backup in that. You know, because the Usman's coming off that hand injury. It was in a cast not too long ago, yet the fight's still been made. So, you know, it could hurt it again warming up. Really could. So, I don't know. There's no way they'll do Hamzat as a backup. He's still got to make weight. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's either that or he's going to probably take a fight at middleweight as Hamzat. That could be the case. Who knows? Let's go Sadiq. Sadiq, you know, says Sai. Tuning in the chat. Sadiq, do you fancy coming to UFC London with us? Yeah, man. Yeah. We'll know you sort it out. Look, a lot of these fighters that we have on this channel have expressed interest in coming to London. We hope that a lot of them come over and make the trip, because if they do make the trip, Maxim Zertberger said that he wouldn't mind coming over. He wanted to kind of hang out with us as well. So, you know, I think we might have a few fighters on the horizon wanting to kind of hook up with us. That'd be quite kind of cool. Good to meet these guys in person, of course. And you know, maybe the fan community can as well. You know, it might just happen. But yeah, I think that was my options for Neil Magny, because look, he's slipped down to 13 at the moment. I imagine that Michelle Pereira is fighting Sean Brady. That's in March, so next month. Some two. Li Zhengliang needs an opponent, but I think those guys have fought before, if I'm rightly so. Magny beat him in 2020, so that's not going to happen. So yeah, I like those options, I'm afraid. All right, moving on swiftly to the co-main events, of course. Brandon Moreno picking up that TKO victory against Deiveson Figueiredo, his rival. We've settled the quadrilogy. At the end of round number 3, well, doctor stoppage. You know, was it a good stoppage? Of course I wanted to see them play on. Why wouldn't you? But I guess it kind of made sense. And the doctor, I'm not going to argue with that. To be honest, I felt that I picked Figgy to win. I felt that he came into the fight very motivated, very hungry, and it looked like that he knew he had Moreno's game, you know, from that last fight. But Moreno came out completely different. You know, he made Figueiredo aware of the takedown threat early in the fight, and I think that was key to victory, you know, which he didn't do in the last fight, you know. It was more or less Figueiredo trying to get the fight down. But Brandon Moreno made it, he put the punctuation in the fight and really did some damage close quarters and was stayed well defensively, you know. There wasn't much of a time where Figueiredo rang his bell at all, really. But, you know, I'm glad that Figueiredo's now come out and he said he's going to move to bantamweight. You know, let's move the flyweight division on at the moment because things are catching up. We've got some good, exciting prospects for sure. And if we go into the rankings at the moment, of course, not much has changed. One opponent that sticks out for Brandon Moreno, and it's the most likely one, of course, of them all, which is Alejandro Pantoja. He went after Moreno after the fight backstage, spoke to him. He, you know, was trying to find out when Moreno would be available next because he wants to put his name in the hat to fight him, of course. And you know, I guess you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day. But he's got 2 wins over Moreno. One of them was an exhibition match on the Ultimate Fighter. Let's not forget that. But he did sub Moreno in the Ultimate Fighter. Second time around, he beat him by decision. And it makes sense, right? He's got a 3-fight win streak as Pantoja. He's 25-5 at the moment. Coming off of that slick submission win against Alex Perez. You know, I think the UFC did Alex Perez dirty by giving him Pantoja. And then before that, beating Brandon Royval, who Brandon Royval's looked pretty good as of recent, you know. He's on 2 straight wins since losing to Pantoja. Of course, he also beat Manel Karp, who's also looking insane at the moment as well. So Pantoja makes the most sense. I'll be interested to see when they will look to do that fight. Apparently, Brandon Moreno did suffer a broken nose, as did Teixeira, and I think probably Laura Murphy as well at the end of UFC 283. That was pretty much cleared up. So fingers crossed we get that pretty soon. Imagine maybe it'd be nice to start of summer, we get that fight booked. I imagine we're going to get one more out of Moreno this year. I can't see him being a three fight a year kind of person. But yeah, I think that's enough really. But as for Figueiredo, then if he's going to move to bantamweight, I think it makes sense for him to put on a bit of size first. I think that's what he would do. Because other than that, if he's not, then your only option really in that mix is Dominic Cruz. Or Umar Nurmagomedov, which is a horrible fight to come into at bantamweight. I don't think Umar would want to take that one. And plus, Umar's in at 11. If you're Figueiredo and you're the former flyweight champion, maybe you want to pick somebody in the top 10, and Dominic Cruz is sitting in there nicely at number 7, of course. But if that's not likely going to happen, and maybe Cruz is going to stay active and maybe look to fight someone else, could be Umar is the only other person who's not booked, or just wait out to potentially see the winner of Pedro Munoz, Alex Gutierrez. But even so, that fight's in April, so that's miles away. Yeah, it's pretty slim pickings. Everyone's booking up. But yeah, if that's not going to be the case for Figueiredo and he is going to take some time to bulk up and things like that, I wouldn't mind giving him the winner of Font versus Yanez. That's a very intriguing fight. Both those guys are very good with their hands. Same with Figueiredo, of course. Font and Yanez. I really like watching Adrian Yanez. He's very entertaining to watch. I do want him to beat Rob Font. It's a big step up for him, taking that 6th spot. Yeah, if he takes that 6th spot from Rob Font, I think Figueiredo versus Yanez is a very, very good fight, personally. I mean, of course, Figueiredo is a bit more experienced than Yanez, especially fighting these top guys. So, man, I don't know. It'd be a hard one, wouldn't it? Other than that, he's not going to fight Marlon Vera. Let's face it, because Marlon Vera, we all want to see Marlon Vera get a title fight at some point. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He has got a fight against Corey Sandhagen coming up. So look, unless you give Figueiredo the loser of that, if he could fight Sandhagen, if Sandhagen does lose against Marlon Vera, I don't know, could be the loser either way. I don't know what Angus is on about. Winner of Vera / Sandhagen in number 1 contender fight, ideally after Cejudo and O'Malley have had their shots. Yeah. I still don't know if Cejudo and O'Malley are going to get paired up. Surely that fight should get made soon, right? Let's be real. Aljamain Sterling is not going to be booked a fight soon. It doesn't sound like it, from what we've heard. He's got a torn biceps. It's going to be a bit of an issue. Breezy. Yes, Breezy. Good to see you, my man. Good to see you as always. My man, my dog. Slap a like on the video if you've not done so already. Oh, yes, there you go. Sorry, taking the words out of my mouth. He says, Mo to be in top 5 this year. Mo. Who are you referring to? Mo. Which Mo am I looking at? You about Umar Nurmagomedov? Maybe? Yeah, let us know. Little bit of a dead weight currently. He says, I don't know what you're on about. Oh, you're just on about Figueiredo in general. Better late than ever. Yes, Ash, good in. Hello. Rizov with Sadiq. Mate, we'll make it next time. Oh, Makayev, says Breezy. Well, Figueiredo is actually... I'd like to see it, but it's not going to happen. Figueiredo has announced that he's going to go to bantamweight, I'm afraid. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. I think Makayev has got a fight booked, isn't he? He's fighting someone who's not ranked again, so it is what it is. Yes, Ash, give Ash some love in the chats, guys. Yes, give him all the loves. I'm going to readjust my position. But yeah, I think that's pretty much touch upon the bantamweight division. The bantamweight division? Well, yeah, bantamweight and flyweight division, of course. That's all I've got going. If you've got any other options, do chuck them in the chat. It's going to be interesting to get your thoughts, of course, as well. But we're going to move it on swiftly then to the main event, which was, of course, Jamahal Hill picking up the decision win against Glover Teixeira, a former champion, to become the light heavyweight champion. And, I think this fight really solidified how good Jamahal Hill is, really. Because, I must admit, I wasn't completely sold on him for some reason. And it might just be because he doesn't look the most athletic light heavyweights. And look, it can throw you off. It really can. But look, nonetheless, his striking was on point. His accuracy was unbelievable against Glover. Yes, okay, you can make excuses and say Glover was 40 years old. But that 40-year-old was not quitting anytime soon. He kept coming forward. And he put Jamahal Hill in some awkward positions, especially on the ground. We really felt that it was going to be that time, that moment that Teixeira pulls off the upset submission yet again after getting his head bounced around. But Jamahal Hill was just so good at battling out of those positions. Maybe you could say fatigue played its factor later on in the fight, of course. But look, dead impressed with Jamahal Hill. You say what you want. Yuri's the real champion and he shouldn't have been in there in the first place. He kind of got gifted the opportunity. Yes, he did, but these opportunities arise and they happen in MMA. We can't ignore that. Yes, the Guys MMA podcast. Yes, good to see you as always. Hit that like on the video, my man. Let us know your thoughts of Jamahal Hill's performance. And especially who you would like to see next. We're going to go into a bit of a new segment later on and talk about potential matchups, I guess, for him. Well, actually, I might just talk about potential matchups for him now. It's not really in the schedule later on, but Breezy says brilliant fight. Don't know if it was championship level fight though. Top 5 contender maybe, and I think he's on about the. Are you on about this? Be interested to see the first defense to shut me up though. Oh, okay, so yeah, he's on about Jamahal Hill, and he's not really completely sold on Jamahal Hill yet as Breezy. That's interesting. Yeah, but I think you got to give credit where credit's due, really, I guess, in a little way, because I thought Glover was going to win. I really did. I thought he was going to get the submission, and I guess the submission defense of Jamahal Hill, we underestimated it a little bit. But the ultimate topic then for Jamahal Hill is what's next for him. 2 options, and I've got a big one, of course, and you're probably going to guess what I'm going to talk about, okay? The first one would obviously be Yuri Prochazka, right? Probably the most logical one because he did surrender the belt, right? At light heavyweight. He sent Jamahal Hill a message straight after the fight, a video message on social media saying that he's coming, and he spoke to Ariel Helwani that he eyes his return in July or August, so it's going to be interesting. Ash says, yeah, he'll surprise me. So I says, yo, not championship level fight. All right, we need to have a word, says Breezy. Oh yeah, I think it was good entertaining one, man. It blew us back and forth, man. But yeah, Yuri against Jamahal Hill. How's that going to fare out? I think that I think this option is the better option for Jamahal Hill stylistically, personally, because I can see Jamahal Hill catching Yuri. I really can. His accuracy is that good, and what Yuri does, he likes to bait his head forward a lot, hands low, and everything like that. I can see Jamahal Hill catching him and setting something up. I really can. So I could see a TKO victory in that one, and I think that would, if that was to play out, that would probably get Breezy's, props for Jamahal Hill. I think probably Breezy might then become a Jamahal Hill fan if he sees that. So it's going to be pretty interesting. The other option, of course, the big one, Alex Pereira. Are we going to see it, though? Are we going to see it this year? Right? I think people were talking about it on social media. Some have suggested it. Is the timing right for it is the ultimate question. Which is the tougher fight? Yuri or Alex Pereira? I think, like I said, Alex Pereira will be the toughest fight. And, there's a story behind it as well. Not only is he the middleweight champion, but you effectively beat my sensei. I'm going to come after you. Because Glover is basically Alex Pereira's sensei. He's like his head coach. So, it's a perfect story. It's a perfect narrative for it. And I really, really want to see it. The ultimate question coming into this, for me, would be, has Pereira generated enough popularity in a short period to warrant a title fight at light heavyweight? And is Jamahal Hill a winnable fight for him? What's winnable? Yuri or Jamahal Hill? I don't know. Maybe it's Yuri. I don't know. But then at the same time, like I've spoken before, when Yuri won the belt against Glover, I'm still not convinced with Yuri. I'm not convinced with Yuri, and I'm not convinced with Jamahal Hill. But personally, this light heavyweight belt could shift back and forth in the next few years. It really could. We might not see many title defenses. It's possible. Was literally a fight of champions. That's what he's referring to, the fight with Glover. The fact Glover went the full 5 and went out on his shield. The only better way to retire would be with a W. Going out on his shield is closer to second. Yeah, for sure. Breezy says, he was very good. Takedown defense early on looked good. Yeah, that's very true. There's props to Jamahal Hill for that, of course, as well. But he says, although takedown attempts looked poor, surprised. Yeah, well, I guess true. And that's the age of Glover, really, isn't it? There's not, like I said during the watch long, the athleticism is not quite there with Glover compared to previous opponents. Like Santos. Santos did struggle with Jamahal Hill as well, though. I think he had some success, but only for a short period. And that was the difference between Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira. When Glover gets you down, he's going to clamp onto you and make sure you stay down. Whereas Thiago Santos didn't really have that. His takedowns were good, but, he didn't have the opportunity to follow up and really control him on the ground. Surprised he didn't finish Glover in the third, and very entertaining fight, but neither looked top. Okay. It's going to be hard to impress Breezy. Glover's takedowns were a bit sus. Sims, I should say, says Sai. Ash says, Alex Pereira versus Hill makes so much sense, I think he's meant to say there, while Jan and Magomed sort stuff out, as one can't go ahead of the other, which is true. But then, as if you would have tuned in earlier, Ash, I did kind of say with that fight, I should have really have gone into the rankings already, shouldn't I? I've just been waffling too much, guys. This is what it is. I think you guys you've kept me on my toes so far. I've lost my chat bar. There we go. Let's clear that. Bosh. We'll go into the rankings then. But yeah, of course not. A lot of changes, I guess. Glover moving down a lot, but Glover really shouldn't be in there anymore. As I was saying, yeah, before you didn't hear me earlier, Ash, I said that I felt that Anthony Smith, I think, should fight Jan, and then Rakic should fight Ankalaev, really. Because Smith and Rakic have already fought. Neither of those matchups have been made before. UFC, I think, are going to be hesitant of making Ankalaev Blachowicz again, unless it's going to be a 3-round fight, personally. But yeah, I'm in no hurry to see it. I don't think either of the fans are, really. Breezy said, like I said, I'll wait for the first defense and hope it shuts me up. Yeah, okay, there you go. So I said he did well, but I didn't take my eyes off Glover the whole 25 minutes, to be fair. Yeah. Ditto. I think we all wanted that kind of that fairy tale ending for Glover, really, didn't we? Retire with the belt in Brazil. Perfect scenario. Breezy said maybe Easy moves up again. I don't think so. Angus said Yuri said he's back July, and since Hill has a broken nose, timeframes match. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah. So my opinion is on that matter, as I don't think that fight between Hill versus Pereira will happen. I want it to happen. I had to throw it out there to you guys to get your opinions on it. I would pray for that fight. I would. I really would. This Pereira train needs to keep going, but I think he's more likely going to rematch Izzy. Let's be honest, that fight's probably going to happen. Oh, are we out? We're without a headliner probably for May, aren't we? So yeah, I think that would make sense. Hopefully May, June, fingers crossed. But yeah, who would you rather see? What's the tougher fight for Jamahal Hill? Is it Yuri Prochazka? Is it Alex Pereira? Let his opinion, but I think Pereira is the toughest fight out of those two. And yeah, I think Yuri would be a really good test for Jamahal Hill. It's that wild and unpredictability of Yuri. Anything can come off any angle. At the same time, the precision striking of Jamahal Hill could very much get the job done in that one. To be fair, Izzy versus Hill is a good matchup. Better than Jan versus Izzy. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Because let's face it, I don't think Hill's going to wrestle. Yeah. And Breezy agrees with you there. Angus says, look, don't worry. Once Pereira knocks out Izzy for the second time, then he moves up. Yeah, I think that will happen. Because look, he's a big dude. We're not going to get that many appearances, I don't think, from middleweight from Pereira. I think personally, I can't see it. I really can't. He just looks too sucked in. I mean, even he could lose. He could miss weight in his next one, or the bout could get cancelled. It's still going to look bad, isn't it? It's not going to be a fairy tale ending. I can see it happening. I really could. But yeah. So I says, I mean, Izzy won't be looking to go up until he's holding the middleweight belt again, surely. Yeah, and there you go. Hit the nail on the head there, Si. Well done. Top stuff. But then that concludes the rankings part of this show and deciding what's next for these winners and losers. We're going to get into a little bit more detail now by talking about some of the things that we've seen on social media, some things we've seen on the news. So hold on tight. That's bringing it on in then. So the first one, of course, we found out from actually from the MMA Hour that Yuri will be back July or August. So yeah, like Angus was saying, the time frame does match up perfectly for a fight with Jamahal Hill. Yuri's going to be coming back from a vengeance, of course. You got to give Yuri some credit, really, for surrendering the belt and letting the division go on. You know, and as much as I'm not completely sold in his ability, and I see there's a lot of course, flaws in his game because he is so wild, and yes, I guess he's entertaining at the same time. But you know, you got to give him some credit for moving the belt on, of course. And look, I think he's going to really put on a show against Jamahal Hill. I think he will. But yeah, pick a winner. Like I said, I think Jamahal Hill is probably going to get that fight. You know, bringing on in that article that was published from MMA Fighting. You know, he kind of said everything's going great at the moment. Next week, I'm going to Las Vegas to continue in rehabilitation and all these processes to be quick, to have the fastest way back possible, which is kind of a little bit of a gamble, really. I think you should really take his time on that because I heard the injury was really severe and quite bad. Is he going to be the same fighter again? That's the ultimate question, because a lot of people were questioning Johnny Walker when he blew his shoulder out, whether he was going to be the same again. And he went on to lose a couple of fights. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he bounces back. He says, I don't want to be too fast for the shoulder, but it's getting much better than everybody expects. So I'm happy for that. So, okay. So positive side then for Yuri Prochazka. Yes, Izzy versus Hill, but then again, Alex Pereira versus Hill, says James. So he's quite excited by the prospects of that. Pereira's power at light heavyweight is terrifying to think about it. Yeah, that's the ultimate question, though, isn't it? Can he put people away at light heavyweight? That's the ultimate question. Yes, welcome in, Prince of Mischief 2225. Welcome back to the Aftermath Show. Good to see you as always. And don't forget to hit a like on the button, of course. He says, what's up, guys? What are we talking about? Mate, where have you been, man? You got to make sure, you're coming on the good time. We've been talking a lot. We've been talking about potential matchups for everybody that was on the main card. We're going to even talk about potential matchups for Jelton and Amada in a second as well. So yeah, do stick around, of course, for that. But good to see you as always. And he says, Reyes' chin is gone. Even Craig would KO him at this point. So I don't know whereabouts he's tuning in the stream at the moment. But Yeah, I like that option as well. So there's three of us tonight that have all reckoned that Dominic Reyes versus Paul Craig is the way forward to go for, and I like that. He says Lauren needs to elevate her team. They are not looking out for her well-being. Well, actually, apparently she changed camps for this fight. I heard, you know, so. Yeah, a big change again is not ideal. But as I say, I had some good options for her. Yeah, good to see you as always. But what are your opinions, of course, on Yuri Prochazka potentially coming back in July, August? Fingers crossed that fight's gonna take place for Jamahal Hill as a first title defense. Moving on, then, of course, to the second point that we've got tonight. We're going to talk about Glover Teixeira because it would be a bit rude if we didn't talk about Glover Teixeira. Hopefully the UFC sort him out. Hopefully he sticks around, does a lot of performances. It'd be great to see him in London, maybe as a sign-in, perhaps. Because I've heard some good things about Glover Teixeira. He's apparently the nicest guy on the block in terms of the MMA world. But as you can see there, some of his highlights, some of his great stats that we've got here in the light heavyweight division: 13 most finishes in the light heavyweight division, 7 most submissions. Oh, blimey, 7. That's crazy. I wonder who's below him in that. 10 post-fight bonuses as well, which is the most in the division. And he landed second most significant strikes of 953. Pretty impressive stuff, mate. He's been around for time, mate. Time. You know, I think some of the great performances. Personally, I think that Thiago Santos fight was a great one. The fact that he came back in the 3rd round and stole the victory. The one against Anthony Smith was solid as well. He's been around for years, going back to 2012 when he made his debut against Kyle Kingsbury. And some have been saying, some of the top guys in the MMA world have been saying that we didn't see the best Glover Teixeira in the UFC. He delayed coming into the UFC because he had visa issues. I think we got him in his 30s. So, you know, who knows what could have happened in that division. He could have been light heavyweight champion a lot sooner. Of course, the fight against John Jones in 2014 was really good. Jones just pieced him apart. I was really hoping that Teixeira was going to beat Jones in that fight. Jones at that time was just like, you're just waiting for the guy to lose. And, you know, you kind of it was almost like that Anderson Silva period where you just kind of, every fight that he was taking, you was just hoping that he was going to lose because he just looked so dominant every time. And barely showed any kinks in the armor. Let's go. Yuri smokes Hill, I think, says Breezy. Ooh, okay. All right, interesting take from Breezy there. Yeah, I guess I imagine you'd probably go for TKO in that one. Prince of Misha says, not too long, she's 40. What? I didn't know that. Already fought for the title, and she just got outclassed. She's the gatekeeper at this point. Sure, yeah, she's not going to move anytime soon. So maybe what Angus was saying earlier, Andrea Lee or Macy Barber would ideal matchup for Lauren Murphy as opposed to the winner of Ribas against Araujo, which I said. So some good picks though. Neither way, I think either option's pretty good. We all love Glover. Chance going on in the chat. Sai says surely Murphy is just waiting for the perfect opportunity to quit. I reckon she'll be forgotten about though. Yeah. Unfortunately, I won't be subscribing for that OnlyFans, says Breezy. Oof, that's a nasty one. Oof, Breezy, fucking smoke there. All right, cool stuff, guys. Cool stuff in the chats as always. We love these engagements in the Aftermath show. Moving on then to the second point, of course. Jamahal Hill, we're going to talk a bit more about him landing breaking the record actually in light heavyweight for the most significant strikes. There you go. We had the second and the second. What was the last one? Significant strikes landed. Oh, is that overall in career? Wait, I'm really confused. A new record for a UFC light heavyweight fight. Okay, yes, that last one must have been overall then. All right. The fact that Hill landed 232 is pretty impressive, if you ask me. And not only that, you know, the fact that he is the first guy from Contender Series to win a title. Who would have thought that? I honestly didn't think it. Going back to the video we put out a little while ago of who we felt the first Contender Series person was going to be to win a belt, I didn't feel comfortable with either option. You know, or anyone out there, as a matter of fact. Maybe I'm just downplaying people, but yeah, I mean, it goes back to the point earlier, like I mentioned, Jamahal Hill was, you know, kind of almost gifted the fight in a way, you know? Like I said in the watch-along, if we had a winner out of Ankalaev versus Blachowicz, Hill was at least 2 fights away from a title fight, you know? Fighting a top 5 guy would definitely have been on the cards before fighting Glover anyway, but... You know, and maybe someone a bit younger, but hey ho, you know, it is what it is. It's happened. We got a new champ. Let's be proud of it, of course. glad that we've we filled that spot, because heavyweight vacant and light heavyweight vacant was not looking good for a while. Murphy is a bad 40 and having OnlyFans. Oh God, you guys are really doing it dirty here. Breezy said 4 years is a good amount of time too. Yeah, man. Yes, Ash. Yeah, sucks about that, of course. Yeah, we were all wrong on that pick in terms of who was going to be the first champion from the Dana White Contenders Series, but we saw it. Let's move on then, because I'm quite excited to talk about this point actually, which was Gilbert Burns. We're going into a little bit more detail. As was mentioned before, during his post-fight interview, he did throw out some options. You know, he quite want like the idea of coaching the Ultimate Fighter with Colby Covington, which could happen, right? Because of the legal action that Colby is going for with the whole Masvidal situation. Surely, you know, makes sense. Maybe. So he did kind of put that out there, and of course, I don't know if you guys can see people's reactions from Gilbert Burns' win. You've seen Wonderboy Thompson saying, same way RDA finished Magny back in the day. Gilbert is strong. Systematically broke him down, says Michael Bisping. Execution to perfection. Gilbert Burns is legit as they come. Yeah, Ariel saying Edwards, Usman 3, Covington versus Shemaya, Burns, Masvidal. Those should be next for top 3 of 170. And yeah, you can kind of get that. Wonder who he calls out, says Bilal. So Bilal knew that it was coming, that he was going to potentially call him out. And look, yeah, there's a lot of options for Gilbert Burns. He suggested them all. One of them in there, which I really like the most, would be to be a backup fighter. He threw it out there. I think it needs a backup fighter. Going back to what I said earlier for Usman versus Burns, Usman versus Leon Edwards, and of course, Usman would likely be the one that pulls out of those two. I must admit, if that's the case, how do we feel about Edwards against Burns, guys? Ooh, how do we feel about that, man? Mate. Burns could easily become a champion. I know he's got all the tools to become a champion, but he could very well fall under that victim or that umbrella that the Robert Whittaker's fallen under. You know, he could be the best person not named the champion, you know, in terms of Kamaru Usman. That's, of course, as if I'm throwing Leon Edwards out there to lose to Kamaru Usman. But I'm just saying, if he was to, then, you know, does Usman still beat Burns? Or has Burns still got the opportunity to beat? Could he beat Usman? I don't know. Usman apparently is getting a bit of wear and tear, though. So there is that factor to play in. I would like to see those two pair up again down the line. But Leon versus Burns, man. Honestly, I'm sat on the fence with this. I really am. Burns has got great wrestling, great jiu-jitsu, and when he gets the fight to the ground, he's putting you to sleep, man. Or he's tapping you out, personally. Prince of Mischief says, UFC will flood our timeline with Contender Series. Fighter becomes champion. They're going to milk it to the max. You know it, my man. You know it. Breezy said, I love that matchup. Colby isn't interested in giving up his ranking. No, he's not. He wants title fight, headliner fight, or bust. He'll probably only take fights that lead to a title. Yeah, but I think... Yeah, I think he's clearly waiting to find out what's going to play out between Edwards and Usman. Because if Edwards beats Usman again, Colby's like, look, give me the shot. I'm the number one guy. I've got my argument here ahead of everyone else. But at the same time, like, mate, you've been sitting out on the fence. You've not been active. So I wouldn't want to give him that shot. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. And I would love to see Burns smack him to bits. I really would. That's the thing. The problem with Colby Covington now is it's coming out more and more often about this whole gimmick that he does, you know? And nobody's going to take him seriously. I mean, no one did. Well, I mean, people did for a brief period, but in the end, it's just going to be like, yeah, all right, mate. Yeah, we get it. Right. You know what I mean? You're just this dramatic person. And look, Gilbert Burns did say that in his post-fight interview. He said he bumped into Colby, thought they were going to fight in a casino, but Colby had a lot of respect for him, and he was saying, look, I do this gimmick and stuff, and he kind of does play up to the cameras a little bit, and I can't really get behind that. I really can't. I'm afraid. So I would love to see Leon kick his head in. I really do. If I could, big take. Would you rather see Usman head kick Usman, Leon head kick Usman, or Leon head kick Colby? Get in the chats. Let's see. Would you rather see? If the Usman one didn't happen, and I gave you a choice, would you rather see Usman get knocked out by a head kick, or would you rather see Covington get head kicked? Let us know. Ash says Burns versus Edwards is a bad matchup. Yeah, I don't like that one bit. I think that fight does lead him to a title fight, to be fair. Yeah, I think he's on about to Burns there. Or yeah. Sai says he doesn't deserve his current ranking. Who's he greasing to keep that then? Yeah. I think he's going to have to start moving down people if they just hold their ranking, personally. Mr. Mishra said, not sure Colby is stalling, is what's happening. Yeah. Smart against Usman, the start against Usman was very good. That version submits Leon, probably. But I'm rooting for Leon no matter what. Can't wait for London. Yeah, so Breezy's going to be behind Team Leon all the way. And look, I can't wait for March, man. Can't wait to see you again, Mr. Breezy. You got to get yourself down to London. Prism said Burns versus Masvidal. Maybe. It could happen. Burns probably would take that fight as well. But then, at the same time, you got to ask yourself, why was that fight not made instead of the Magny one? Is it the whole legal proceedings with Colby? What I reckon. Ash says, I don't think Burns can keep taking fights with guys under him in the rankings. Was surprised he was took the Magny fight. Just wants to stay active, man. I like Colby. So Breezy reckons Covington should get head kicked. No question. Nah, none of that. Marty face Usman. Masvidal, because that's a big money fight. If he ain't fighting for the title, at least get that big money fight. Yeah, I guess that's always there, isn't it? For Burns. If Burns is going to take a fight with Magny, he's going to take a fight with Masvidal, and he's going to get more money out of it. And, of course, Masvidal would take his rankings if he does beat him. So, there's a lot to win, I think, for both guys in that. Breezy says, Ash, a.k.a. Donald Trump in disguise. Where's your MAGA hat, mate? I'm expecting MAGA hats from Ash in the next watch-along. I kind of want Usman back on the top, though, says I. I don't know. Really? I am taking the belt back to the White House, says Ash. Mate, who's on your phone right now? This is not what I'm expecting from you. Marty Fake Usman. Mate, Ash, what's wrong with you, mate? What's wrong with you? I never thought you was saw you as a Colby fan. I don't think we can become friends or continue being friends. But back again, I guess, what would we rather see? We'd rather see a tough season with Colby, perhaps? Let's get into that a little bit. I think that's got some viewership to it. Let's be honest, the Ultimate Fighter has been lacking since it came back, I didn't think the coaches' choices were that great. I think in the past we wanted Masvidal and Colby. I think that would be great. That would be better. But I think Colby in the Ultimate Fighter as a coach, I think just sells it on its own. People will tune into that. But can Colby keep up that gimmick for that amount of time? That's the question. Because there's going to be a lot of cameras. There's going to be a lot of filming. Can he keep that up? I think it'd be entertaining as hell. Because he'll have all those girls around him, in bikinis, walking around, coaching people. It's going to be fantastic. Come on. Let's be honest. I think it would get people watching the show again. And it'd be interesting. And as Angus mentioned earlier, if Colby is going through proceedings with Masvidal, the Ultimate Fighter makes sense. But then would it also make sense for Colby to just kind of sit in the shadows and wait for all that to play out? In which case, you should probably remove the ranking from him. Really? He's not active. Happened with Ioane and Jacek, didn't it? I think the UFC should really do the same. Breezy says, I'll be there. Don't worry. Bring some merch for the meet and greet photos. I'll happily send some money for one beforehand. Just let us know on the Discord, Twitter. So need some shots in my ATF shirt. Yes, Breezy. Mate, we need to get these. We have been working on this. You just got to push Sai in the Discord. That's literally what you got to do. You got to nag him to sort it out because... Yeah, we really want to get some of you guys in ATF merch in March. It's got to happen, and March is just around the corner. Cannot wait. We are going to be at a Q&A session tomorrow night, which is going to be really interesting, which is going to have Leon Edwards, of course, the champion, and Arnold Allen, and our boy Nathaniel Wood has been on the channel before. So that's going to be entertaining. That's going to be a little bit of a warm-up for UFC London shenanigans. We're going to get a head start on things. And yeah, I cannot wait to see you in March, Breezy. Look, I just can't believe this. We're literally nearly 2 months away. We're going to try and obviously bring the usual shenanigans, of course, as well. Tough hasn't been the same since Python Shoes versus 40-year-old ex-skater. That is true. That is true. The McGregor-Faber series was really good. And it was good after a bit of a rubbish stint of The Ultimate Fighter as well. You know, we had some poor seasons. I think the Brock Lesnar and Shane Carwin one was pretty naff as well. Chicken salad. Yeah, I think that makes sense. But would I rather see if I had to pick one? Ooh, be safe. I would go for the tough season with Colby over the backup. But then you need a backup for that fight. Because if that fight pulls through, oh, God, London is broken. London is broken. Oh, okay. I'm going to get on the verge of wrapping up because I've been on there long enough. So we're going to move on to the last little bit. Gelton Almeida. Is he the next Brazilian? Is he the Brazilian Khamzat Chimaev is the ultimate question. I think he is, mate. Because I watched that fight against Abdurakhimov and he was an absolute beast. He looked to kind of slow down a little bit, but he was in control of Abdurakhimov throughout the fight. He just controlled him on the ground and ragdolled him, and Abdurakhimov looked a lot bigger than him. Abdurakhimov did an excellent job, I felt, of trying to get back to position, get back to his feet a little bit. You know, he was bucking Almeida at times and trying to free some space, but Almeida was just a step ahead of him every single time and eventually put him away. For Gelton Almeida, though, I think next fight up is going to be Chris Daukaus. Because he's in at like number 15 now, I think, is Almeida. Give him Chris Daukaus. It's a horrible fight for Chris Daukaus, personally, and I think that will be his way up the rankings. That's my ones to watch, Monster. Yeah, mine too. Of course, I can't think highly enough of Gelton Almeida. I hope that they put Gelton Almeida in a co-main event slot fight night in Brazil. That's my take on that. That's my take on that one, personally. All right, okay, so yeah, that's enough on Gelton Almeida. Oh, Gus, you got a graphic there as well about the guys that's kind of stood out in the fight card. You know, a lot of people made the UFC debuts, and the futures look bright for those guys. Of course, Terence McKinney getting knocked out was pretty bad to watch as well. Props to the brothers for their debut there. But yeah, let's move on then. Let's wrap this bad boy up then, shall we? Back into the main screen. All right, guys. All right, let's clear that chat. Ooh, Bush. All right. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning into this watch along. For this Aftermath show. Don't forget to hit a like on the video and hit the notifications bell so then you know when we're bringing you some more juicy content. And there will be some coming very soon. So do stay tuned for that. We're going to be in London. If you're around London, don't forget to maybe hang out in Blackfriars tomorrow. We're going to be here for the UFC Q&A, which is going to feature Leon Edwards, Nathaniel Wood, and Arnold Allen. So we're going to be getting some questions out to those guys. So, you know, if you're in London, you're in town, of course, you fancy traveling down, come hang out with us. We'll be there hopefully around 6 o'clock queuing up at the Mermaid in Blackfriars. That's the Mermaid in Blackfriars. So do stay tuned for that, of course. 2 weeks' time. We've not got to watch along this weekend. There's no event. As I said, pop the notifications bell to know what's going to come because there might be some content coming on Saturday. Who knows? But yes, the next watch along will be that Makhachev versus Volkanovski card, UFC 84. Man, that is going to be unreal. Wait, that is the next one, isn't it? Or is it Daukaus versus Spivak? I think it might be Daukaus versus Spivak. I think I probably got that completely wrong, haven't I? I don't think I'm just getting over too excited, really. I actually am. Yeah, it is Lewis versus Spivak. Sorry, I got that wrong. 4th of February, so do stay tuned for that. It could be completely different times as well. The main card is at 6 a.m. here in the UK, and I think it's like 1 a.m. over in the US. So do check your listings for that. We'll make some communications out on Twitter as well, near enough for the event. So make sure you stay notifications on. All right, I'm JK. Thanks for tuning in for the Aftermath show. Stay sexy, and we'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now, friends.